political polarization has been increasing, especially in the United States. And
Mm,
I think it's part of the general tendency in long periods of peace and prosperity. So,
mm,
up until World War One, Europe had experienced a long period of peace and prosperity. So had the United States. And as a result, they had become more unequal and more polarized
yeah.
because when conflicts with outsiders fade into the past and you don't remember them and they don't seem as important, you focus more on conflicts with insiders, other people who are local. And that's
Mm,
what's happened in the West in the last, you know, half century or so. The longer we go from World War II or the Cold War, the less we feel threatened by outsiders and the more we focus on the inside conflicts. And so
mm.
that will continue until we have a big outside conflict, which I hope doesn't happen, but that's history. So basically,
Yeah.
there are a number of say inequality in history typically just rises until we have a big crisis like a civil war or a pandemic or something, and then it falls.
Yeah.
And that's just been the history of inequality. We've had high inequality lately because we've had a long period of peace and prosperity.
Yeah.
And the way that will likely fall is by having a period of conflict with
Mm.
with less peace and prosperity, which is a bad thing to have happen. So I don't wish it to happen, but
Yeah.
that's the likely way in which our period of peace and prosperity will end.
Mm.
And therefore, the rise in polarization and inequality will end when we start having a lot more conflicts.
Which is funny because after COVID, I feel like the country became even more divided. And COVID,
Indeed.
yeah, COVID was a outside threat, right?
But it wasn't a people outside.
Mm,
If it had been people outside, that would have
mm,
had a very different effect. But it wasn't, people don't think of it as being caused on purpose by somebody.
mm,
And they actually used it as a way to divide themselves,
yeah.
argue about masks and lockdowns and
Right.
origins. So, yes, it doesn't seem like it also wasn't anybody getting fired. So, I don't know if you
Mm,
know, in the United States at the beginning of World War II,
right.
we were losing.
Hmm.
We were consistently losing for about a year. Our battles were going badly. We
Yeah.
were everything was just going badly. And then the leaders said, we need to change a bunch of stuff or we're going to lose here. And they made some pretty big changes in who was in charge of what and what sort of instructions they were given. And then we
Hmm.
started to do better and not lose. But
Yeah.
in order to be ready to fire lots of people and change things, you have to actually be scared that things are going badly. Nobody got fired in COVID.
Hmm. Yeah.
Nobody was seen as it wasn't seen as being so bad that somebody should be fired. We just
Yeah.
decided, oh, this is okay. We're going to do something, but we're not going to blame anybody and not going to fire people. We're not going to change how we do things.
Mm.
And that also happened at 9/11, actually.
Yeah.
9/11 was this big crisis, and we tried to do things to change, but we didn't really fire anybody.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
didn't say you guys have been doing a really bad job and you're gone and we need somebody in here to do something different. We didn't really do that. We just sort of kept doing the same things without
Yeah.
firing anybody. So that's a sign that we weren't that scared.
Yeah.
In World War II, again, we were scared. After a year of losing in World War II, we were really worried that this is going badly. And if we don't change, this is going to end up very badly. And that's what makes us willing to change. But we didn't do that in 9/11 or after or during COVID.
Mm. So as bad as it sounds, we would probably need something like World War II to happen again for it to bring us together.
Well, we might need something bigger to make us willing to change things. And yes, a destructive war is what brings people together and reduces inequality,
Mm.
unfortunately, which is why maybe you shouldn't hope that we get to be more equal. We get brought together because it's a very high price to pay to be brought together. You
Yeah.
need a pretty destructive external threat.
Yeah. Which, as bad as it sounds, I mean, that's probably what we need, but it's like it's something really bad to wish for. But I mean,
Indeed.
although 9/11 brought us together temporarily, I mean, it faded pretty quick, but there
Right.
was a time of prosperity that we felt Like American.
We were brought more together, but we didn't blame anybody enough to fire them.
Mm, yeah.
We didn't say that anybody inside us was doing stuff wrong and they needed to change how they were doing stuff.
Yeah.
We just took all the usual authorities and let them stay in charge and let them decide what to do.
So it would have to be something that was brought about because of incompetence.
You have to be scared,
Yeah.
actually scared that we might be doing it badly. And we haven't had that in a while because we're
Mhm.
so rich and peaceful and prosperous.
Yeah.
So the modern world is really quite rich and comfortable. And so
Mhm.
we're not very scared, but that means we aren't willing to make big changes either.
Yeah. And
You have to be scared of, things going badly to be willing to make big changes.
right. So I have another question regarding that. Is is living through a good time responsible for weakening a society?
Um, in a way, I think. So humanity's superpower is cultural evolution.
Right.
That's the way we're able to do things better than the other animals, is because we can inherit culture much faster and change it much faster than
Mhm.
animals can change their DNA.
Yeah.
Up until a few centuries ago, we had a pretty healthy environment for cultural evolution because most people lived in small peasant communities. There were
Mhm.
hundreds of thousands of them in the world.
Yeah.
They were near the edge of survival, facing strong selection pressures. The world was changing slowly, and they were trying to be very conservative. That's a healthy environment for cultural evolution.
Hmm.
Then in the last few centuries, we've changed these parameters a lot. Instead of hundreds of thousands of peasant cultures, we crushed that down to 100 nations and then now into one world monoculture. So variety is way down.
Mhm.
As we get rich and comfortable, selection pressures are way down. Uh, the rates of change have gone way up because of technology and business improvement. And we are now eager to cause cultural change. So this is a
Mhm.
bad environment for cultural evolution.
Yeah.
So plausibly, our culture is drifting into maladaptation.
Mhm.
And that's related to our being rich, but it's more specific. It's about us breaking our superpower. This process of cultural evolution, we broke it and now it's not working. So if if these parameters weren't all in the bad range, we
Mhm.
could, well, have a healthy evolution even if we're rich. But since these parameters are not in the good range, we are drifting into maladaptation.